The voting results flickered across 1,000 holographic screens throughout the chamber. Red numbers dominated the display. Denied. Again. David Reed gathered his papers with slow, deliberate movements. Around him, representatives from 200 alien species whispered and clicked and hummed in their various languages. Most were already moving on to the next agenda item. The human question had been settled. Case closed. 50 years. That was how long Earth had worked with the Galactic Council. 50 years of sending medical teams to plague worlds. 50 years of mediating wars between species who could barely pronounce each other's names. 50 years of sharing technology that humanity had clawed its way to developing, only to watch council members take credit for the breakthroughs. And now this, a permanent seat on the council, denied for the 7th time in a row. Speaker Vralik adjusted his ceremonial robes, the blue-green scales of his amphibious body glistening under the chamber lights. He was already calling for the next vote, something about mining rights in the outer reaches. Business as usual. David stood up. His chair made a soft scraping sound against the floor. A few nearby representatives glanced his way, then returned to their data tablets. He walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the vast space. Patricia Walsh, Earth's military liaison, fell into step beside him. Then Commander Stevens. Then Dr. Yuki Tanaka, who had spent 20 years developing the plague protocols that saved billions of alien lives. One by one, every human in the chamber joined the quiet procession toward the doors. Now the aliens were noticing. Conversation stopped. Vralik paused mid-sentence. David reached the massive doorway and turned back. The entire council was watching him now. Hundreds of eyes, compound and simple, multifaceted and singular, all focused on the human delegation. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The people of Earth thank the Galactic Council for the opportunity to serve alongside you these past 50 years. As of this moment, we are withdrawing all human personnel from Council operations. Our medical teams, our peacekeepers, our engineers, our diplomats, all of them. We wish you well in your future endeavors. Silence. Then laughter. It started with the Kree representative, a chittering sound that came from his mandibles. Others joined in. The crystalline Lumians made a sound like wind chimes. Even Vralik allowed himself a wet chuckle. You will be back, Vralik said, waving a webbed hand dismissively. You need us more than we need you. Humans always come back. David said nothing. He simply turned and walked through the door. The other humans followed. Behind them, the council chamber returned to its business. Mining rights in the outer reaches were far more important than the wounded pride of a single species. 3 days later, the orders went out from Earth. Patricia Walsh sat in the United Earth Command Center in Geneva, surrounded by holographic displays showing human operations across the galaxy. Each screen represented lives, work, dedication. She began issuing the recall commands. On Dueler 3, Dr. Salar watched human medical personnel pack their equipment. The gray-furred physician had worked alongside them for 15 years. He did not understand. The plague protocols, he said, his multiple arms gesturing frantically. You cannot just leave. Who will maintain the monitoring systems? Who will update the vaccine distributions? Dr. Tanaka sealed the last container of equipment. We trained your people, Dr. Salar. You have all the information we can provide. The Council has made their decision about humanity's place. We are respecting that decision. But the protocols are complex. There are subtleties we have not fully grasped. Then I suggest you study harder. Dr. Tanaka's voice was not cruel, just tired. Good luck. The human medical ships lifted off the next morning, leaving behind facilities they had built and staffed for decades. In the Kepler frontier, human peacekeepers boarded their transports. The Kree and Lumian fleets that had been on the verge of war for months watched them go. For years, Human mediators had kept the peace, understanding both species well enough to prevent misunderstandings from becoming bloodshed. Commander Thrix of the Kree received a simple message from the departing humans. "We are confident you will resolve your differences peacefully. Best wishes." The Lumian speaker Jor-El received an identical message. Neither species thought much of it. Humans were just bitter about the vote. They would calm down. On Harmony Ring itself, human engineers shut down the monitoring stations they had installed throughout the massive council station. These systems tracked everything from life support efficiency to structural integrity. The council's own engineers had never learned to operate them. Humans had always just handled it. "Should we leave instruction manuals?" a young technician asked. His supervisor shook her head. "They never asked for them before. They probably won't read them now." The last human supply ship undocked from Harmony Ring on a Tuesday. Standard Earth time, at least. The various alien species tracked time differently, but humans had always accommodated everyone else's calendars, so hardly anyone noticed when the small vessel disappeared into the void. Back on Earth, David Reed stood in his apartment in New York, looking out at the city below. The streets were full of life, humans going about their business, unaware that their species had just walked away from galactic politics. Patricia found him there an hour later. "The recall is 90% complete," she reported. "We will have everyone home within a week." "Good." Some of them are angry. They feel like we are abandoning people who need help. David nodded slowly. "We helped for 50 years. We saved billions of lives. We prevented dozens of wars. We shared our knowledge and technology freely. And the Council voted 7 times that we were not worthy of a permanent voice in galactic affairs. So what now?" "Now," David turned from the window, "now we focus on us, Earth and her colonies, the independent systems that actually want to work with us. Let the Council handle their own problems. They were so certain they did not need us." Patricia smiled grimly. "I suppose we will see about that." On Harmony Ring, Speaker Vralik reviewed the agenda for the next council session. Mining rights, trade disputes, border skirmishes, routine business. He did not notice that the infrastructure monitoring system had stopped updating. Nobody did. 14 days after the humans left, the first alerts appeared on Dueler 3. Dr. Salar stared at the medical monitoring console, trying to decipher the warning symbols flashing across the screen. The interface was in human standard English, which he could read, but the diagnostic codes made no sense. Something about mutation rates in Sector 7, something about containment breach probability. He pulled up the human protocols, scrolling through pages of technical documentation. The words were simple enough individually, but together they formed a complexity he had never fully appreciated. When humans ran these systems, they made it look easy. They would glance at a screen, nod, and know exactly what to do. Now Salar understood why. They had not just been reading the data, they had been interpreting it through layers of experience and intuition that could not be written down. The plague had been dormant for 3 years. Human vaccines and monitoring had kept it suppressed, but viruses evolved. Human doctors had updated the vaccines every 6 months, tweaking the formulas in ways that seemed almost instinctive. Salar had not updated anything. He did not know how. The mutation happened on day 16. By day 18, the first cases appeared. By day 20, the Dulari government declared a planetary emergency. Salar recorded a message to Earth, his voice shaking. He explained the situation. He asked for help. He begged for it. The response came 12 hours later from Director Walsh herself. "We understand the gravity of your situation. However, Earth respects the sovereignty of Council member worlds. We are confident your medical professionals will find a solution. The protocols we left are comprehensive. Best of luck." The message ended. No offer of assistance, no human medical ships racing to the rescue. Salar played the message 3 times, hoping he had misunderstood. He had not. The death toll reached 10,000 within a week, then 100,000. The Dulari people, who had relied on human expertise for so long, were drowning in a crisis they could not manage alone. Meanwhile, in the Kepler frontier, the situation between the Kree and Lumians deteriorated rapidly. Commander Thrix reviewed the tactical displays aboard his flagship. The Lumian fleet had moved 3 degrees closer to the disputed zone. In human terms, this meant nothing. In Kree terms, it was an insult that demanded response. The Kree moved their own ships forward. Speaker Jor-El, watching from the Lumian command vessel, saw the Kree movement as aggression. The geometric patterns of his crystalline body flickered with agitation. Lumian culture valued precision and order. The Kree organic ships with their irregular forms represented chaos. Both species sent messages. Both messages were filtered through translation software that converted words accurately but missed every cultural nuance. When humans mediated, they did not just translate, they explained. They bridged the gap between utterly alien minds. They made species understand each other. Now there were just computers doing literal translations. Thrix received a message he interpreted as a challenge to honorable combat. Jor-El received a response he interpreted as a death threat against civilians. The first shots fired on day 19 of the human absence. The battle lasted 6 hours, 17 ships destroyed, thousands of lives lost, not because either side wanted war, but because neither side understood the other well enough to stop it. On Harmony Ring, Speaker Vralik received reports of both crises with growing alarm. He immediately convened an emergency council session. The chamber was tense. Representatives were shouting across the floor, something that rarely happened in the carefully structured council proceedings. The Dulari situation is their own fault, insisted the Varani representative, her green scales gleaming. They should have learned the human systems properly. The humans should have taught us properly, Salar countered, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. They should be here helping. They were never officially required to help, another voice called out. They volunteered. Volunteers can leave whenever they wish. Vralik pounded his gavel. Order. We must address these situations practically. Send our own medical teams to Dular 3. Deploy council peacekeepers to the Kepler frontier. The orders went out. Council medical staff arrived on Dular 3 with equipment and training. Council military ships positioned themselves between the Kree and Lumian fleets. It should have worked. The Council had resources, they had trained personnel, they had protocols. But the Council medical team had never dealt with a rapidly mutating plague before. They tried to apply standard containment procedures. The virus adapted faster than they could respond. The death toll climbed. The Council peacekeepers tried to mediate between Kree and Lumians. They used standard diplomatic language. They proposed standard compromise solutions. Both species found the suggestions insulting for reasons the peacekeepers could not comprehend. The fighting continued. On day 23, an asteroid was detected on collision course with Trell 9. It was not an unusual situation. Asteroid deflections happened regularly in populated systems. The Council had handled dozens of them. But humans had handled hundreds. The Council engineering team studied the asteroid's trajectory. They pulled up the human calculation methods, elegant mathematical models that made the work seem straightforward. They plugged in the numbers. They positioned their ships. They fired the deflection thrusters exactly as the formula specified. The asteroid's trajectory shifted, wrong direction. The engineering team panicked, firing additional thrusters to compensate. The asteroid began tumbling, its rotation destabilizing. Then it broke apart. A single large asteroid became a dozen smaller ones, all on slightly different trajectories. Two of them slammed directly into orbital stations that housed 50,000 workers each. The explosions lit up Trell 9's orbit like new suns. Evacuation sirens wailed across the planet. Millions fled the industrial centers, abandoning infrastructure worth trillions of credits. The asteroid fragments that reached the surface destroyed factories, refineries, and processing plants that had taken decades to build. The Council engineering team sat in their command ship, staring at the devastation in shock. The formulas had been correct. The calculations were accurate. But humans had something beyond formulas. They had instinct, experience, a feel for how space and physics actually worked that went beyond numbers on a screen. And that could not be replaced by reading their notes. On Earth, astronomers tracked the Trell 9 disaster through their telescopes. They said nothing. They filed their reports in silence. Director Walsh reviewed the incident data, her expression carefully neutral. "Should we offer assistance?" an aide asked quietly. "Did they request it?" "No, ma'am." "Then we have nothing to offer." Walsh closed the report. "The Council made their choice. We are respecting it. Alert me if they actually ask for help." The aide nodded and left. Patricia stood alone in her office, looking at the star charts on her walls. She felt no satisfaction in what was happening, only a grim acknowledgement of reality. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson. Some knowledge could not be taken for granted. The trade routes broke first. CEO Morville of the Varani Mining Consortium watched his profit projections collapse in real time. Red indicators spread across the holographic display like a virus, each one representing a shipment that had vanished between systems. Pirates, raiders, opportunists who had always existed in the darker corners of the galaxy but had never been much of a threat. Because humans had patrolled those routes. Not officially. The Council had never asked them to, but human merchant vessels were everywhere, and human captains had a peculiar habit of helping anyone in distress. A distress call would go out, and within hours, a human ship would arrive. Pirates learned quickly that attacking in human-patrolled space meant facing swift retaliation. Now the humans were gone. The pirates noticed. Morville sent an urgent message to the Council, demanding protection for his shipments. He received a response 3 days later informing him that Council security forces were stretched thin due to various ongoing crises, but they would try to increase patrols in his sector within the next 2 months. 2 months? His company would be bankrupt in 2 months. He was not alone. Across the galaxy, commerce was strangling. Supply chains that had run smoothly for decades were fragmenting. Systems that depended on regular deliveries of food, medicine, or industrial components found themselves waiting weeks for shipments that used to arrive like clockwork. The economic collapse spread like ripples from a stone, dropped in still water. On Harmony Ring, the infrastructure failures started small. A water recycling system that ran 15% less efficiently. A power relay that required manual resets twice a day instead of once a week. Environmental controls that drifted a few degrees off optimal. The Council engineers tried to address each issue as it arose, but for every problem they fixed, 2 more appeared. The station was vast, a city in space, and its systems were interconnected in ways that nobody fully understood except the humans who had installed them. Those humans were on Earth, watching from 40 light-years away. Speaker Vralik stood in his private office, reviewing reports that grew more alarming each day. Dueler 3 death toll now approaching 1 million. Craolumian conflict expanding to involve 3 more border systems. Trell 9 economic output down 70%. Pirate attacks up 400%. Council member worlds beginning to accuse each other of incompetence. His communicator chimed, an urgent message from the Salvori Republic. The Salvorians had never joined the Galactic Council. They were an independent confederation of bird-like species who preferred to handle their own affairs. Vralik had always considered them short-sighted for refusing council membership. Now they were offering the council advice, unsolicited advice. "We have been conducting trade negotiations with Earth's colonial systems," the Salvori ambassador said in the recorded message. Her feathers were a brilliant blue, and her tone was carefully diplomatic but pointed. The humans seem quite willing to share their expertise and technology with partners who treat them as equals. Perhaps the council should consider a different approach. Vralik deleted the message. The council did not take suggestions from non-members. But the seed was planted. Reports began filtering in from council intelligence services. Human colonies were not just surviving Earth's withdrawal from galactic politics. They were thriving. New Vancouver had signed a major trade agreement with the Salvori Republic. Armstrong Station was coordinating a joint scientific venture with 3 independent systems. Nova Terra was exporting food to worlds the Council could no longer reliably supply. And everywhere humans went, they brought their expertise, medical knowledge, engineering skills, diplomatic finesse, but only to those who asked respectfully and offered fair partnership. The Council Worlds, proud members of the oldest and largest political organization in the galaxy, found themselves watching from the outside. 3 more humanitarian crises erupted in Week 5. A factory explosion on Krev 2 required specialized rescue equipment that humans had always provided on loan. The Council had to purchase new equipment at enormous cost and wait weeks for delivery. 70 workers died who might have been saved. A virus outbreak on the agricultural world of Plenty threatened the food supply for 6 systems. Human biologists had monitored Plenty's ecosystem for years, maintaining databases of every microbe and pathogen. The Council's replacement team had no databases. They were starting from zero. A solar flare damaged communications networks across the outer reaches. Human technicians had built redundancies into those networks and could usually restore service within hours. The Council team took 3 weeks, leaving millions without long-range communication. In the Council chamber, accusations flew. The Kree brought this on us by provoking the Lumians. The Lumians fired first. If the Varani had not blocked funding for infrastructure improvements, we would not be in this situation. If the Dulari had learned proper medical protocols from the humans instead of relying on them, their crisis would never have happened. Vralik pounded his gavel until his arm ached. The chamber descended into chaos, dozens of species shouting in dozens of languages, the translation system struggling to keep up. Finally, the Kree representative stood. Commander Thrix was present via hologram, his mandibles clicking slowly. "We need the humans back," he said simply. Silence fell. "We need them back," Thrix repeated. "This is not about pride, this is about survival. The galaxy is falling apart." "We cannot just crawl back to them," the Lumian representative protested. "We have our dignity." "Dignity?" Dr. Salar's voice was raw. "My people are dying, millions of them. I would trade all the dignity in the galaxy for one human medical team." More silence. Vralik looked around the chamber. Proud species, ancient civilizations, all of them struggling with a reality they had refused to see. Humans had not been assistants or volunteers or helpful neighbors. They had been the foundation, the glue holding everything together, the invisible framework that made galactic civilization function. And in their arrogance, the Council had voted that foundation unworthy of a voice. "Very well," Vralik said quietly. "I will contact Earth. We will request their assistance." "Request?" Thrix's hologram flickered. "They will refuse a request. They have been refusing requests for weeks." "Then what do you suggest?" The Kree commander's image leaned forward. We do not request, we do not demand, we beg. The word hung in the air like a physical thing. Beg. The Galactic Council, the supreme authority of 200 civilizations, was going to beg a single species to come back. Vralik felt every one of his 200 years weighing on him. Prepare a delegation, he said finally. Our best diplomats, send them to Earth. Should we offer concessions? Someone asked. We should offer everything, Vralik replied, because the alternative is watching civilization collapse around us. The message went out that night. On Earth, David Reed received it with no expression at all. He read it 3 times. Then he forwarded it to Director Walsh with a single line. They are not begging yet, just asking nicely. Wait. Patricia read the message and smiled without humor. How long do we wait? Until they understand what they lost, David said. Until they truly understand, not much longer now. The council delegation arrived at Earth's orbital station on a cold morning in March. 5 ambassadors representing the major species blocks: the Kree, the Lumians, the Sorrel, the Varani, the Dulari, each one carefully chosen for their diplomatic skill and political influence. They expected negotiations, concessions, perhaps some hard bargaining where both sides would save face. Director Walsh met them in a conference room with windows overlooking Earth's blue oceans. The planet turned slowly beneath them, peaceful and utterly unconcerned with galactic politics. Ambassador Jor-El spoke first. His crystalline form reflected the light in careful patterns, a Lumian gesture of respect. Director Walsh, we come to discuss the current unfortunate situation between Earth and the Council. We believe a mutually beneficial arrangement can be reached. Patricia sat down, folding her hands on the table. I am listening. The Council is prepared to offer Earth observer status, Jor-El continued. This would allow human representatives to attend Council sessions and provide input on matters where human expertise is relevant. Observer status. Patricia's tone was completely neutral, the same status given to minor civilizations with populations under 1 billion. It is a significant step forward from your current position. Which is? Jor-El hesitated. Your current position is that of a non-member civilization. And before we left, we were applying for permanent council membership, full voting rights, equal standing with the founding species. Patricia pulled up a holographic display. Let me show you something. Data filled the air between them, charts and graphs and planetary reports. This is Earth's resource production over the past 2 months, up 18%. Our research output up 22%. Our colonial expansion up 30%. Our trade partnerships with independent systems up 140%. She waved her hand, changing the display. Now here is the Council's data for the same period. Economic output down 40%. Infrastructure reliability down 60%. Successful crisis resolution down 75%. The ambassadors sat in uncomfortable silence. You are not here to offer us a mutually beneficial arrangement, Patricia said quietly. You are here because the Council is failing without us. So let me be very clear about Earth's position. We do not need the Council at all. We are completely self-sufficient. Our colonies are prospering. Our people are thriving. The Council, however, desperately needs us. You overestimate your importance, the Varani ambassador said, her scales darkening with agitation. Patricia smiled without warmth. Do I? Then go home. Handle your crises yourselves. We will be fine. But your people, the Dulari representative said desperately. Surely they want to help. Humans are compassionate. They would not let billions suffer. Human compassion is not infinite, Patricia replied. For 50 years we gave freely. We saved your people from plagues, from wars, from disasters. We asked only for recognition. For a voice in the galaxy we helped protect. The Council voted 7 times that we were unworthy. 7 times. So now we are respecting that judgment. You said we were not worthy of joining your club. Fine, we will start our own. Ambassador Jor-El's crystalline structure flickered with what might have been anger or fear. The council will impose sanctions, economic embargoes. You will be isolated. Will you? Patricia pulled up more data. Earth exports primarily to independent systems now, the Salvori Republic, the Tarkin Confederation, the Free Worlds Alliance. None of them are council members. Sanction us and you hurt yourselves more than us. Most of your critical supply chains still have human components, medical equipment, engineering systems, transportation networks. Ban trade with us and watch your civilization grind to a halt even faster. The silence stretched. Finally, the sorrel ambassador spoke. He was older than the others, his amphibious features weathered with age. What do you want? Excuse me. Clearly you want something, or you would not be meeting with us. State your terms. Patricia leaned back in her chair. You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. You have nothing we want. Earth is doing fine, better than fine. You are the ones who need something. Then why agree to this meeting? Professional courtesy. We wanted to make our position clear in person. Earth is not coming back to help the council, not as volunteers, not as observers, not as anything less than full equals. Full council membership, Jor-El said, with all rights and privileges. No. The word stopped them cold. No, the Kree ambassador repeated. Full council membership is what we wanted 7 times ago, Patricia said. The price has gone up. You taught us that our help has value. Now we know exactly how much. So if you want that help, you need to offer more than what you refused to give us when we were asking politely. What more could there be? That is for the council to figure out. Patricia stood, ending the meeting. When you are ready to make a real offer, not demands disguised as compromise, contact us. Until then, good luck with your crises. I am sure you will manage eventually. The ambassadors left Earth orbit 3 hours later, their mission a complete failure. On Harmony Ring, Speaker Vralik received their report with growing dread. They will not help, Jor-El said flatly in the emergency council session. Not unless we give them everything they want, and they would not even specify what everything means. Arrogant primitives, the Varani representative hissed. Arrogant? Dr. Salar stood shakily. He had lost weight. The strain showed in every movement. They are not the ones dying because we cannot manage a plague. They are not the ones watching their economy collapse. They are not the ones begging. We did not beg, Jor-El protested. No, we offered them scraps and expected gratitude. Salar turned to Vralik. Speaker, my people cannot wait for pride to run its course. The death toll is approaching 2 million. I am formally requesting that the council authorize me to negotiate directly with Earth. Dueler 3 will pay whatever price necessary. You cannot negotiate separately, Vralik said. It would undermine council unity. What unity? Thrix's hologram appeared. Half the council wants to fight Earth. The other half wants to surrender. Meanwhile, people are dying and infrastructure is failing and the galaxy is fracturing. There is no unity left to protect. Around the chamber, more representatives were nodding. Vralik saw his authority crumbling. The council was supposed to be unshakable, eternal, supreme. Instead, it was coming apart because one species had the audacity to walk away. What do you propose? He asked quietly. Let individual members negotiate with Earth, Thrix said. Those who want human help can seek it. Those who are too proud can manage alone. That would destroy the council as a unified body. The council is already destroyed, Dr. Salar said. We are just too proud to admit it. The vote took 3 hours of bitter debate. In the end, the decision was unanimous. Council members were authorized to pursue independent agreements with Earth. Vralik watched the vote tally appear and felt something die inside him. 50,000 years of council unity, ended because they had underestimated a species barely a century into space travel. Within days, the requests began flooding into Earth. Most were rejected immediately. Some received polite consideration. A very few got actual help, but only after agreeing to terms that recognized Earth as an equal partner, not a supplier of charity. The galaxy was reorganizing itself around a new reality. Humans were not begging to be let back in. The Council was begging them to return. Archmediator Selenra had not left Harmony Ring in 15 years. Her position was too important, her duties too consuming, but desperate times demanded desperate measures. She was the oldest serving council official, 230 years old, and she had seen civilizations rise and fall. She understood something the younger representatives did not. Pride was a luxury reserved for those who could afford it. The Council could no longer afford pride. Her ship entered Earth's solar system on a Tuesday afternoon. She had sent no advance notice, requested no formal reception. This was not a diplomatic mission. It was a pilgrimage. The security forces at Earth's orbital station were surprised to see her. An archmediator, the highest non-elected position in the Council hierarchy, arriving unannounced in a small personal vessel. They granted her entry immediately and contacted Director Walsh. 2 hours later, Selenra stood in Cape Town, looking at Table Mountain rising behind the city. She had expected Earth to be struggling, its people anxious and fearful about their isolation from galactic society. Instead, she saw prosperity everywhere. Humans walked the streets with purpose and confidence. Markets bustled with goods from a dozen star systems, none of them council members. Children played in parks, their laughter carrying on the wind. Earth had not just survived without the council, it had flourished. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Her escorts led her to a modest building overlooking the ocean. Not a grand governmental palace, just a comfortable office complex where real work happened without ceremony. David Reed and Patricia Walsh met her in a simple conference room. No cameras, no recording devices, no witnesses to what was about to happen. Selenra had prepared a speech. Weeks of careful composition, balancing authority with conciliation, firmness with compromise. She had every word memorized. She looked at the two humans across the table and knew the speech was worthless. "I am here to beg," she said simply. The humans said nothing. They just watched her with calm, patient eyes. "The council is dying," Selenra continued. "Not quickly, not dramatically, but we are dying nonetheless. Our people suffer, our systems fail, our unity fractures, and we did this to ourselves." "Yes," Patricia said quietly, "you did." "I was against the vote," Selenra said. "All 7 times. I argued that humanity had earned a seat through service. I was outvoted by younger, more arrogant voices who could not see past their own pride. And now you want us to save you from the consequences of that pride." "No," Selenra met Patricia's eyes. "I want to acknowledge that we were wrong, fundamentally, profoundly wrong, not just about the vote, about everything. We treated you as helpful primitives, never understanding that you were the scaffolding holding our civilization together." She pulled out a data tablet and set it on the table. "This is a personal record I have kept for 40 years. Every crisis resolved by human intervention. Every war prevented by human mediation. Every disaster mitigated by human expertise. I counted them." "How many?" David asked. 4,317 major incidents, countless minor ones." Selenra's voice wavered. "Without humans, we averaged about 200 successful crisis resolutions per year. With humans, we averaged 800. The difference is not just in numbers, it is in lives. Billions of lives saved because humans were there." She stood, her old bones protesting, and did something no archmediator had done in recorded history. She bowed. a full, formal bow of subordination. I am not here to negotiate. I am not here to offer compromises. I am here to admit that the Council needs humanity far more than humanity needs the Council, and to ask, not as a diplomat but as an old woman who has watched too many people die unnecessarily, whether there is any path forward. Patricia and David exchanged glances. "Sit down, Selenra," David said gently, "please." The Archmediator sat, her ceremonial robes pooling around her. "You understand that this is not personal," Patricia said. "We hold no grudge against you specifically, but Earth cannot go back to how things were. We cannot pour our resources, our expertise, our people's lives into an organization that treats us as disposable help." "I understand. If we were to help, it would need to be different, fundamentally different." "What would you require?" "We will send observers," David said carefully. "Not to help, to assess. They will tour Council space, evaluate the situations, and report back to Earth. Then we will decide which crises we choose to address with which species under what terms. And for those species who refuse to work with you on equal terms, they will handle their own problems." Patricia's voice was firm. "We are not a charity. We are not cosmic janitors. We are a civilization that offers partnership to those who want it, nothing more." Selenra absorbed this. "The Council will fracture completely. Some species will accept this, others will not. That is the Council's problem, not ours. But billions will suffer." "They are already suffering," David said. "And that suffering is the result of Council decisions, not Earth's. We did not create this crisis. We are not obligated to fix it at our own expense." Selenra sat in silence for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "You are right, of course you are right. The suffering is our fault, ours alone." She stood again, gathering her robes. "I will deliver your terms to the Council. I cannot promise they will accept." "We know," Patricia said. "But Selenra, understand this. Earth is not waiting for the Council's decision. We are moving forward with or without you. Every day you delay is another day your people suffer while ours prosper." A motivation to decide quickly. "Exactly." Selenra walked to the door, then paused. "May I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "Are you satisfied, watching us struggle while you thrive?" David considered the question carefully. "No, we take no pleasure in suffering, even when it is self-inflicted, but we are not responsible for fixing every problem in the galaxy. We tried that for 50 years. It earned us nothing but contempt. So what now? Now we help those who value our help. We partner with those who see us as equals. We build something better than what the Council offered." David's expression softened slightly. "There is room in that future for reformed Council members, but only if the reform is genuine." Selenra nodded and left without another word. Her ship departed Earth orbit 6 hours later. On the journey back to Harmony Ring, she prepared her report. She chose her words with the care of someone who knew she was writing history. The Council would have to choose, genuine change or slow extinction. Either way, the galaxy had already changed. Humanity had seen to that. 6 months after Selenra's visit to Earth, the Galactic Council looked nothing like it had before. The chamber on Harmony Ring was quieter now. 40 species had withdrawn completely, choosing to negotiate directly with Earth rather than work through the Council. Another 60 were present only sporadically, maintaining membership in name while conducting most of their affairs independently. Of the original 200 Council members, fewer than half remained fully committed. Speaker Vralik stood at his podium, looking older than his years. Before him lay a document that represented everything the Council had once sworn never to accept. Earth's terms: full Council membership with permanent status, veto power over any decision affecting human interests or operations, public acknowledgement of human contributions over the past 50 years, shared credit for all future joint operations, and perhaps most painful, formal apologies from the representatives who had voted against humanity all 7 times. The vote was called, the chamber filled with reluctant confirmations. When it finished, the tally showed near-unanimous approval, not because the council members suddenly loved humanity, but because the alternative was clear. Those who worked with Earth were recovering. Those who refused were still drowning in crises. Self-interest was a powerful teacher. The message was sent to Earth within the hour. David Reed received it in his office in New York. He read through the terms, verified that every single condition had been met, and allowed himself the smallest of smiles. They agreed, he told Patricia over the comm. All of it. Every word, including the apologies. There was satisfaction in Patricia's voice. Good, assemble our delegation, we have work to do. 3 weeks later, David Reed walked into the council chamber as Earth's first permanent representative. The new seat had been installed at the head of the table, positioned alongside the founding species. The silence as he entered was profound. David settled into his chair and activated his console. The display showed dozens of pending crisis requests, situations where council members were formally requesting human assistance. He did not rush. He reviewed each one carefully. Some he approved immediately. Dueler 3 received full medical support, with human doctors already en route. Dr. Salar had been among the first to publicly apologize, and his people's suffering had been genuine. The Creolumian border conflict received human mediators who quickly negotiated a lasting peace. Both species had swallowed their pride and asked for help properly. Trell 9 got engineering teams to rebuild their orbital infrastructure, but only after signing a partnership agreement that gave Earth partial ownership in the new stations. Others David denied. The Varani Mining Consortium had refused to acknowledge human contributions and had tried to play both sides. Their requests sat in the declined folder. Several species who had been particularly vocal in voting against humanity now found their crisis, requests pending indefinitely. This is petty, Ambassador Jorel said after the second session. His crystalline form flickered with irritation. David looked at him calmly. No, this is priorities. Earth has limited resources. We help our partners first. Those who treated us with contempt can wait until we have spare capacity. Some situations are urgent. They are all urgent. That is why we are choosing carefully. David pulled up a display. The Varani situation, for example, they are losing money, not lives. Inconvenient, not critical. We will get to them eventually, after we handle the actual emergencies. Jorel wanted to argue but found he could not. By the Council's own standards, prioritizing life-threatening situations over economic ones was completely reasonable. That Earth's priorities conveniently aligned with rewarding cooperation and punishing contempt was merely coincidental. Supposedly, the galaxy reorganized itself quickly once the pattern became clear. Species that partnered with Earth genuinely, treating humans as equals, found themselves with access to cutting-edge medical care, advanced engineering, and diplomatic expertise. Their economies stabilized, their crises resolved. Species that remained proud or dismissive found themselves struggling alone, watching their neighbors prosper. The incentive structure was unmistakable. Within a year, the Galactic Council had effectively split into 2 tiers: core members who worked closely with humanity and maintained their influence, peripheral members who clung to old pride and found themselves increasingly irrelevant. Earth did not force this division. They simply operated according to their stated principles: partnership with equals, assistance for those who asked respectfully, indifference to those who did not. The galaxy sorted itself out accordingly. On Dueler 3, Dr. Salar stood in a medical facility that human engineers had rebuilt and expanded. The plague was contained, the death toll had stopped climbing, and his people were recovering. He recorded a message to Dr. Tanaka, who was overseeing the recovery efforts. "I understand now," he said quietly. "What we lost when you left, it was not just your expertise, it was your willingness to share it freely. We took that for granted. We assumed it would always be there. I am grateful that you came back, even though we did not deserve it." Dr. Tanaka's response was characteristically pragmatic. "We came back because you asked properly, because you acknowledged the problem. That is all we ever wanted, recognition and respect." In the Kepler frontier, the Krea and Lumion fleets that had been fighting for months now patrolled together, protecting shared shipping lanes. Human mediators had helped them understand each other's cultures deeply enough to build actual friendship. Commander Thrix and Speaker Jorel sometimes shared meals, an act that would have been unthinkable before. They did not become friends because humans ordered it. They became friends because humans showed them how. On Harmony Ring, the council settled into its new reality. Sessions were more efficient now, partly because the chamber was less crowded, partly because everyone understood the stakes of cooperation. Speaker Vralik called the session to order, and David Reed reviewed the agenda alongside representatives who had learned to listen to his input. Not because he demanded it, because his advice was consistently good and his species delivered results. Slowly, grudgingly, the council members who remained were learning what partnership actually meant. And in those lessons, something unexpected emerged. The galaxy did not become Earth-dominated. It became genuinely cooperative. Human representatives did not lord their position over others. They simply worked, solving problems efficiently and without drama. The arrogance drained away on both sides, replaced by professional respect. Late one night, David stood alone in his quarters on Harmony Ring, looking out at the stars. Patricia's hologram appeared beside him. "Regrets?" she asked. "About walking away? No, it needed to happen." "About coming back?" David considered. "No, but only because we came back on our terms. If we had returned as beggars accepting scraps, nothing would have changed. Some species still resent us. Some always will. That is their problem, not ours." David smiled slightly. "The ones that matter learn the lesson. The galaxy is better for it." Patricia's hologram nodded. "So what now?" "Now we work, help where we are wanted, build partnerships with those who value them. Let the rest figure it out themselves." David turned from the window. "Humanity is not here to save the galaxy. We are here to be part of it, as equals." "Equals," Patricia repeated. "Took them long enough." "Better late than never." The hologram faded, leaving David alone with his thoughts and the stars beyond the window. Somewhere out there, civilizations were learning a lesson that should have been obvious from the start. Take the helpers for granted, and they will leave. Treat them as equals, and they will stay. The galaxy was finally understanding the difference.